Hello and welcome, everybody. My name is Ryan, and I'm a guide for the Central Park Conservancy. Welcome to Central Park. We here at the Central Park Conservancy are the nonprofit organization that helps to take care of Central Park year-round. Our mission is to preserve and celebrate Central Park as a sanctuary from urban life and to enhance the enjoyment and well-being of all. We're going to explore one of our favorite landscapes in Central Park, the pool. Thank you for joining us for one of our continuing series of weekly walks, our little virtual lunchtime strolls happening every Wednesday at 12:30. Today, we're going to be exploring the pool located in the northern end of Central Park. As many of you know, we're going to be together for about 15 to 20 minutes, and just about all of the photos you're going to see were taken by myself within the past week or so. We will see a few additional photos as well that were accessed through various sources like the New York Public Library, the New York City Parks Department, and the New York Historical Society Public Archives, which are publicly accessed domains that you can see right here at home or anywhere in the world from a public computer. We are going to begin our walk, but before we do, just a little bit of housekeeping. I'm sure a lot of people are joining us again, a lot of repeat visitors. Looking through the chat section, I saw a lot of people from all over the world. We had England, Indonesia, Brazil. I saw Israel, Italy, of course, a lot of people from all over the US, Texas, Florida, Colorado, California, and plenty of people here in New York. So thank you everybody for joining us from all around the world. Before we begin, just of course, a little bit of housekeeping that some of you probably know. We're using Zoom, so we encourage you to say hello using the chat feature I just mentioned. Let us know where you're joining us from, or maybe drop a favorite memory you have of this area of Central Park. If you do have a question, we encourage you to use the Q&A feature. And my colleagues Ian and Jose are going to be, I'm sorry, Ian and Juan rather, are going to be on the back end today answering any questions you might have. The last thing we're going to see pop up on our screens are some of those visitor polls that I'll launch throughout the walk today. I'll launch one of these polls right now, and after you vote in it, it'll disappear. One that I like to start off with for most of these walks: have you visited this area before? So we're going to be exploring again the pool today. So if I pull up a map to kind of show you a little bit of an idea of where we are, we're going to be exploring right around 100th Street and Central Park West, or 8th Avenue. The pool runs between about 100th Street and 102nd Street, being a small 1.5 acre water body. One of 7 water bodies that exist in Central Park today, and one of 6 that are more naturalistic looking, meaning they look like they were here before the park was created. So I'll end the poll in just a moment. We have about 250 people at the moment with us today. So thank you so much again for joining us. We love doing these weekly walks and opening up new areas of the park to you. Or in this case, it looks like we have a split at about half of the people have visited here before, half haven't. So for some of you, this is going to be a new area of the park. It looks like actually just a little bit more of the majority of people have not visited the pool. So this is a great area to visit no matter the time, but especially during the fall and autumn seasons when we start to get some of the color change. Great, so we're going to jump right into it. I'll launch some more polls as we go. We're going to begin our walk just outside of the park at 100th Street and Central Park West, or 8th Avenue. And we're going to be beginning just at an entrance of the park, which is known as Boys Gate. Many of these different gates inscribed for different prominent citizens or people that might have been using this area or entrance of the park. So as we enter here at Boys Gate, I do immediately notice something hanging on one of the lampposts. One of these many signs that you've probably seen in past weekly walks, or maybe in person if you've had the chance to visit the park. This is a little campaign that we started right around the time of the pandemic and right around the time we started these weekly walks. Using the hashtag #MyCentralPark, we encourage people to share memories, stories, quotes, or really anything that they have about Central Park, talking about why they love it and why it's a great respite. This quote right here reads, "There is comfort to be found in trees, a reminder that life continues and is beautiful." A great sentiment that can certainly be admired up here around the pool, where we have a lot of very beautiful trees. This is actually coming from one of our staff members as well. But walking throughout the park or going online, you can find various quotes and stories like this from staff members and visitors alike. But a great quote to start off our walk, because there are plenty of beautiful trees around the pool. One that I can't help but sharing immediately when we walk by this area is this beautiful Osage orange. Osage orange trees don't get too big, but the female Osage oranges produce something that's pretty cool that we can check out. You might notice some kind of light green balls, it looks like, in this tree. we look a little bit closer, we can see those are hedge apples. Produced by the female Osage orange, these will grow as large as a grapefruit and weigh a lot. They're closer to really an orange or a pineapple in kind of texture and very fibery and stringy, but they are enjoyed by a lot of different wildlife throughout the park and become a favorite meal for squirrels and other different birds and ants and insects as well. A really cool thing that we can see just on this northern section, or western section rather, of the pool. A fun little tree to look at right as we start to enter and come into the beautiful sanctuary of Central Park. So as we start walking away from that busy 8th Avenue street, we can start to admire some of the nice sweeping hillsides that the pool makes up, as well as start to see the water just a little tucked behind the trees over here. So we'll walk along just along the top shoreline right now, enjoying that lush green before we see some foliage. And as we walk up to this little fenced off area, we'll get our first taste of some water. As we look up to the left, we'll see that water just cascading and flowing down into the pool, the water body we're of course walking around and going to get to see in a little bit more detail. If we look just behind this area, we can see where this water is flowing from, coming from a little cascade. Now, I like to compare Central Park to Disneyland. A lot of people don't realize Central Park is man-made. So kind of like Disneyland, it looks really magical and whimsical. But if you pay close attention, you can see there are strings attached to those puppets. This is a great example. It looks like a natural little cascade, but if you look up around the bend behind these rocks, there's actually a big pipe that's bringing the water out. Today, Central Park's water bodies are supplied by old remnants of the Croton Aqueduct water pipeline. So tap water is actually supplying the water bodies in the park. And all the water bodies are man-made, even though they look really natural. So it's very fitting their water sources and supplies look natural as well. But this pipeline also allows us to lower and raise the water bodies. So we can do this to prevent flooding, or in the case of a drought, raise the water body and keep those shoreline plants nice and fed. But a really interesting little thing to see. We will learn a little bit more about the pool's history and how this is a very special water body though. As we turn around, we can backtrack just a little bit and go a little off-roading. I love to walk on these trails. Difference between trails and paths. The trails, as we might have heard last week at the Blockhouse Walk, trails are going to be dirt or wood chip and make us feel a lot more connected to the landscapes we're walking through. So as we walk around this dirt path, we'll come up to some beautiful fitting rustic architecture, just kind of nestled in this little woodland area. And as we come around the bend, some more beautiful views of the shoreline, a bunch of weeping willows surrounding the pool, which add that beautiful just draping effect with these leaves and branches hanging over. As we do walk just along to the side, we will see some of my favorite kind of different architecture that surrounds the pool, which are going to be some of these beautiful different rustic benches. These rustic benches are actually all made in-house by the Conservancy's preservation and rustic crew, made from wood black locust, a tree you can find growing in Central Park. But if we go sit on that bench, we can get a really beautiful view of the pool, seeing some of the common waterfowl, the mallards that love to call the pool home, as well as maybe a few migratory waterfowl that are kind of passing through over here, like northern jugglers. So a lot of different activity, both in terms of flora and fauna around the pool. As we continue walking, we can see some of my favorite views, a little bit of that architecture blended in with the landscape, and also one where we don't get the full taste of everything that we're seeing, but really a beautiful view anywhere around the pool. And you can imagine the pool looks really beautiful today, especially during the fall as we're getting this beautiful transition coming in. But like a lot of landscapes in Central Park, they did not always look so nice. Central Park Conservancy formed in the 1980s because the park used to look really decrepit and very different from what it looks like today. Here's a great example. This is what the pool looks like today, but it used to look very run down. That shoreline was almost non-existent. You can't really even tell where the water begins and where the shore begins. There was much less shoreline plants, far less aquatic plants and native plants from the look of it. But you can also see just trash in the water. Looks like there's a waste barrel over here. Really a lot of erosion and damage clearly occurring here. And I'm sure sewage systems and things like that were getting damaged as well. This did lead to a major restoration project the Conservancy completed between about 2001 and 2003. During that time, restoring the shoreline, putting more of a natural aquatic plants along to really prevent erosion and damage. We deepened actually the pool area, and removed a lot of sediment from it, of course, a lot of trash and things like that, and then put in new irrigation and drainage systems. Also fixing up that shoreline with rock abutments to keep it a little bit more in place. But today we have a drastically different poolside. Looking at what that area would turn into, certainly night and day difference with a lot of life blooming, even during the winter months. Walking just over this little area that certainly has transformed over the years will actually bring us to a very historic part of the park. May not look like much, but this little area over here with the little wooden bridge has actually some hidden history behind it. So the pool is a man-made water body, but it's actually one of the few water bodies that was created from an original water source. This map is an old topographical map of New York City created by Egbert Viele, who was New York City's chief engineer for quite some time. This map is still used today by a lot of architects because it shows the original shorelines of Manhattan, which have drastically changed over time. But what it also shows is the original waterways passing through the island of Manhattan. If I take a little snippet of this top section, we can see what is today's Central Park. And looking just down here on the bottom left, we can see 101st Street. This little black line that's coming in is actually an offset from a creek that would have come down around Columbus Avenue before eventually breaking off around 100th Street and coming into what is today Central Park. This area known as Montaigne's Rivulet, getting its name from the De La Montagne family, which settled and immigrated to the area around 1637, setting up tobacco farms along this creek. This creek, which would eventually become Central Park, was really incorporated into the park by the designers Calvert Vaux and Frederick Law Olmsted. By damming up that water body, the pool was created. And then by widening out the little stream that would pass through what would become the Northwoods, the lock and the ravine, they were able to create a more sufficient river or streamway passing through. Looking at a map of today's present day park, you can see that water body coming in, having created the pool and leading into what is today the Harlem Mirror. An amazing way to really take cues from the landscape and transform it into the park that we have today. Snapping back to reality though, we can walk right by this Montaigne's Rivulet area, one of the only freshwater sources in Central Park, and we can start kind of exiting this area, coming out to another path. And as we come up to this path, some of my favorite trails that are just tucked together with a lot of nice, luscious flora, a lot of nice foliage color, but not really giving us too much of a taste of what's ahead, really making us have to walk around and explore. As we walk just up around the bend, we're coming to the north side of the pool. And if we tuck around to our right, we can walk over to the little kind of meadow area, a really great picnic area on the north side. And as we come up towards the water and shoreline, a great access point, we can see some of those mallards swimming out as the sun is starting to peek from behind the clouds, shining light on that weeping willow and large bald cypress that are stationed right on the west side. So looking in the water, you may notice a lot of fallen leaves. Right now, there's certainly leaves in the water, but if you've visited the pool before, especially if you're local to New York and have had the chance to see the pool regularly, you might come here every now and then and notice something floating on the pool or maybe any of Central Park's water bodies. You may notice this stuff. A lot of people may see this and think, oh no, there's algae in the water. That's actually not algae. Algae is going to be microscopic and change the tint or the color of the water. This is going to be duckweed, and duckweed is about 9 different species native to New York, and it's a little flowering, almost lily pad type plant. The flower does attract insects, which are eaten by different animals, as well as the plant itself, which is a favorite meal for ducks. It's actually got more protein in this kind of duckweed than it does in soybeans. So these are really healthy and really beneficial for a lot of wildlife. But every now and then we can see duckweed blooming in overwhelming amounts. And although duckweed can be really beneficial, doing a lot of things like really adding food sources, preventing things like mosquitoes from laying eggs in the water, and really adding a lot of nutrient, it can also clog up the water. When it blooms in overabundant amounts, this will not only block out sunlight from reaching lower growing plants, it'll clog up the amount of oxygen that's in the water, which are needed by fish and turtles. It'll also ruin infrastructure and sewage systems, and of course, make the area look pretty dirty, especially as it starts to really mold and rot away, creates a really bad smell. So we do have to do some work occasionally when we get overabundant blooms of this, and we have to have our operations staff go in and make net rake, and skim different areas to remove overwhelming quantities of it. And they remove tons and tons. A lot of this potentially is repurposed into kind of mulching or really giving nutrients back to different areas of the park. But it is, of course, removed from water bodies like this, so we can get a little bit more peaceful of a water body for not only the wildlife, but for us as well. So thank you, big thank you to our operations staff for keeping the water clean. So we have this wonderful, wonderful clean pool to enjoy. And as we walk along the shoreline, we have plenty of access points that give us beautiful views. Really amazing walking along these water bodies because we can come right up to the shore and really have access for activities like fishing, but also just beautiful views. You are actually allowed to do catch and release fishing as well in every body of water in the park, except for the Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis Reservoir. As we walk down this path, get some beautiful fall leaves changing. And here's one of my favorite trees, sweet gum. Sweet gum trees are really beautiful because they get some of the full spectrum of colors during the fall season. Here's a little example of some of the different oranges, yellows, reds, and even kind of purple colors you can see on the bottom left that these produce. During this fall time, trees, deciduous trees, trees that lose their leaves, are going through a process called abscission. And during abscission, chlorophyll is stopping to be produced, or is stop being produced in leaves and in the trees, and we see that chlorophyll slowly dissipating from the leaves. Once that chlorophyll is really retracted and receded, we see the color within the leaves becoming more apparent. This color is actually in the leaf all year long, and they're caused by different nutrients and minerals. Flavonoids will create yellow types of colors. We're going to see carotenoids creating reds and sort of orange colors. And then we're going to see anthocyanins creating almost purple and blue type colors. So very, very beautiful spectrums, especially in sweet gum trees like these leaves, which are pictured. But a really beautiful fall spectacle that we can see all around the pool area. As we continue walking along, we'll see some other trees that might not have the best leaf change, like this American sycamore, but are always fascinating to look at. These produce some really big, beautiful leaves. They're a little small this year, but still pretty large. Just to give you kind of an idea of how big these leaves are, here's it in front of my face, a fun activity I love to do in the fall time. Another great thing to mention is you'll notice the paths are very clean. Somebody actually once asked me the other day, if the leaves just don't fall on the paths and why the paths are so clean. It's not the leaves don't fall on the paths, it's that we have wonderful operations staff that are in the park very early, caring for every aspect of the park, like the paths, leaf blowing and raking to make sure they're clean and safe, and also putting that leaf back on the sides of the path. So maybe kids can jump in piles of leaves, but mainly so that leaf litter can really create a healthy ecosystem for the future. That leaf litter will break down and add nutrients and minerals, but in the meantime, it will provide insulation for a lot of perennial plants that'll bloom in the springtime, as well as insects and bugs that are going to be calling this area home over the winter. So those fallen leaves have a lot of use. Continuing around over this beautiful little rustic bridge, we'll walk by to a very nice piece of architecture just tucked away over in the east corner of the pool. And that beautiful little piece of architecture is going to be Glenspan Arch. Glenspan Arch is one of about 31 existing bridges and arches in Central Park today, and one of the original bridges and arches created in Central Park back around 1865. We'll walk down and get a little bit closer to a view of that. And as we walk down these Manhattan mica schist stairs on our right-hand side, we'll get to the bottom and see a beautiful waterfall. One of 3 cascades that can be seen throughout the Northwoods. This is the largest one at about 14 feet. You can actually see the top of it because it curves around over here. And this offers not only a beautiful view, but beautiful sound because it covers up all the sound of maybe that helicopter flying by, a taxi speeding down 8th Avenue, or maybe a bicyclist using the bicycle track nearby. But this gives us a beautiful picturesque scene and sound to enjoy the park with. And just behind it, beautiful architecture like Glenspan Arch. A Glenspan Arch, again, was created around 1865, but originally looked a little different. Originally looked a little something like this. Originally, it was made of Manhattan mica schist and wood. The top portion was originally made of wood with wood abutments and railings, but like a lot of things in the park, the wood fell apart over time and was not replaced with its authentic design. It was later redesigned and replaced with gneiss. We go back, we can see that top portion being made of a stone called gneiss, Gneiss, similar in look to Manhattan mica schist, and a stone that's native to upstate New York. So a very fitting natural rock source to use for the recreation of Glenspan Arch. But of course, some original features, like these little hollowed out chambers, still exist today, which do various things like provide a really amazing breeze during the summertime. Standing under here, it feels like natural air conditioning because of the cross breezes coming through. But a really fun little area to walk through and check out. We turn around, we'll walk just back up to the path and come up to another beautiful view of the pool, probably one of the most expansive views we have, which show us a lot of that beautiful fall foliage. And actually, I'll launch another poll real quick. I just want to see if anybody has a favorite spot in Central Park to view the foliage. And this is a multiple choice poll, so you can vote in multiple different categories or multiple answers if you'd like. But see if anybody has a favorite area to view the beautiful fall foliage in Central Park. This is certainly one of my favorite little sections to stand in though, because that northern side of the pool gets some of the nicest, beautiful spectrum of colors. We have a lot of sweet gum and tupelo trees over here, as well as a lot of different maples, both red and sugar maples, and a lot of different other various trees like bitternut hickories, which add a balance of just yellows and oranges. A lot of really beautiful colors become apparent in this area. And as we walk up just the path a little bit, we will see just another view or so of some beautiful foliage as we come towards our last stop point for the tour today. So we do see most of the votes coming in. We have about like 260 people now. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us on this overcast Wednesday here in New York. Hopefully it's a little bit nicer where you are. But I'm going to actually end this poll and share it right now. And we're going to see a lot of people tend to agree with my favorite landscape, the Ramble. The Ramble is a great area because you can get lost and see fall foliage. But of course, just about any area you go to is going to be really amazing to see the spectacle once we get to that peak. But plenty of other great areas to see foliage in or just to explore the park. So we are going to walk just up here and hang to the right. We're going to go on a little trail to end the walk, just so we can get a little bit of kind of off the beaten path views. This is one of my favorite sections to really just collect and sit and relax around the pool. Walking just over here, we'll see some of that rustic architecture. We'll see some bald cypress trees, which actually lose their needles during the winter time. And we'll see just a little bit of wildlife skimming around. We look just over to our left for our last view or two. We can see a little bit of what we've viewed on our walk today. We can see a little bit of that west side, some of the beautiful trees that cover and block a lot of those buildings out. Some waterfowl, this mallard kind of doing a handstand as he dabbles for food. A lot of those weeping willows and even some rustic architecture kind of tucked over here in the corner. A lot of beauty. And if we look to my favorite view that I caught on this walk around the pool, just over to our right behind us, we can see a little bit of everything. We can see the beautiful pool with that nice reflection, plenty of beautiful fall foliage starting to peak. And of course, my favorite things to do in the park, admire wildlife, which we have these two Canada goose sitting over here. One of them looks like it has a private photo shoot going on with this little park patron enjoying the respite that is the pool. I will launch just one more poll as we're wrapping up. Our last poll is I just want to see if maybe you have a favorite tree. I put on a couple of the ones we mentioned around the pool today, but there's of course plenty other ones that I haven't mentioned. This is another one that you can vote for multiple answers. But as everybody is voting for that, this will bring us to the end and we'll wrap up. I do again want to say thank you everybody so much for joining us. We really love doing these weekly walks. And some of you may have noticed we've listened to your requests and we've made our weekly walk registration process a continuing series, meaning that you don't have to continuously sign up each week. If you signed up for last week or this week's weekly walk, you'll get an email each Wednesday with the following weekly walk link. So hopefully this will make it a lot easier, and we encourage you to keep joining us for these weekly walks because they're really fun to do, and we're going to keep them going all throughout the colder months and really as long as we can. We do have plenty of other programs as well that you can join. We do virtual walks of longer tours, typically about 45 minutes long on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We do also have a new series behind the park, different insights with specific conservancy members. The next one coming up is going to be on November 18th, and it's Behind the Park, Preserving Central Park's Rustic Architecture. So if you like the rustic architecture like Copcot and the pavilions and benches, tune in, and we're going to have the Assistant Manager of Preservation, Sam Vargas, telling us about how really this work gets done and some firsthand looks at how this architecture is created. Plenty of different ways to stay involved. You also saw the signs in the beginning. Using the hashtag #MyCentralPark will help you stay connected, and potentially you could have a sign in the park, or you can have your story shared with the public. I do want to end this poll and share results, and we can see, I'm sure, a lot of people's favorite, that weeping willow. Weeping willow is certainly a great tree, and there's plenty of great ways to really learn about the park and great areas to explore and learn about trees, the pool being a wonderful one. If you do check the comments section, my colleagues will drop the links for all of those tours we were mentioning, as well as just for our website. Website is a little hard to get through right now, but there are fun things to find on there, like virtual tree walks, whether you want to take one self-guided or with us. But there's plenty of different ways to stay connected, and we're happy to keep exploring around the park with you. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to leave this chat open for a little bit longer in case anybody has any last-minute questions. But if not, please join us again next week as we explore the bridle path with me. From all of us here at the Conservancy, I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Stay safe and be well. And thank you for joining us.